Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new episode of the Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. And not to forget that this show focuses on sports and sports from all across the globe. But not to forget, you can reach us on our social media handles, which is at the rate of Indus News Sports. And once you do that, we can always make it more interactive with regards to what you want to say, what you want to hear about the sports world, from us. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. Yes, Mohammad Amir says he will be available for Pakistan only once this management leaves. Yes, Messi sees a red card as Barca crash to the defeat against Athletic Bilbao. Yes, Australian golf legend Greg Norman is hospitalized with coronavirus. We'll be talking about that very soon. And from the world of tennis, Australian Open. Yes, 47 players in quarantine after testing positive for COVID-19 tests in 2 chartered flights. And yes, those were the headlines, guys, and it's going to be a very interesting journey because, we're definitely talking about cricket right now. And with regards to cricket, as you all know, the situation is obviously growing with regards to how South Africa team is here in Pakistan. And, for that matter, we needed to bring in someone very esteemed member of the Pakistan cricket team. He's been an ex-cricketer, a phenomenal player. About him, I'll just give a brief overview. He has represented the country at the under-15 level. He was signed in as an overseas player for Scotland as a replacement for Rahul Dravid in English domestic cricket and played with them in 2004 and 2005 seasons. Not only that, he's also known for the 2006 season as he signed in as an overseas player for Sussex and helped them win the double of the C&G Trophy in the county championship. And in 2007, he was signed up to play for Kent. So these are the basic highlights of the esteemed guest that we have. Yasser Arafat, sir, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me on the show, Alamdar.
So tell me, we definitely want to start off the journey about cricket with regards to, obviously, South Africa is here. So we'll just go back a bit to Pakistan versus New Zealand. The situation, the scenarios, because we've been talking about this with a lot of people, with a lot of journalists, with a lot of cricketers. We wanted to get an input from each and every one of them. So we'll have your input and your wisdom with regards to the whole situation that, Pakistan went to New Zealand during these COVID times, very hard times, finally managed to start playing, were not allowed to practice, were in quarantine, couldn't really perform to the fullest, only won just one T20 match and then lost 2 test matches as well. So would you like to shed light on where did we go wrong? What truly happened with the team, with the collaboration and everything?
Yeah, before discussing the performances of Pakistan in the recent past, like they went to England and then they toured New Zealand, especially because of these pandemic COVID-19 situation. Every team or everybody is struggling, how to cope with it, especially the sports people, cricket team. They have had a very tough last few months in terms of performances, but at the same time, you can't, hide yourself with these, problems, because if you see around, everybody is playing and doing well. If you see Australia, India series, and then other series, South Africa, Sri Lanka series. So everybody is playing and performing well. So there is no excuse of the bad performances.
Right.
Starting off the New Zealand tour, Pakistan tour was hampered right from the word go when they had to quarantine for 14 days, which is supposed to be like 3 days, but because of few problems with the players, they break the rules and regulation of New Zealand authorities, so they had to do the quarantine for 14 days, and the player was mentally drained out before coming out into the field. So that was a really bad start for Pakistan. And then again, the main player, the Babar Azam, the captain of Pakistan team, was injured right from the before even the series started.
Absolutely.
So he couldn't play any game on the tour. So these are the factors which were the reasons of Pakistan not did well in the New Zealand series.
Right. One thing, Yasser, I need to speak a bit, maybe your wisdom with regards to a recent statement by Mohammad Amir, of course, one of our key bowlers. but obviously there was a situation with him. It's been a while. Obviously, he recently announced his retirement, but now he's coming up with a statement saying that he will be available for Pakistan only once this management actually leaves. So how do you see this statement? Because there's a variation of things coming from his end as well.
If you ask me, I've been player, and if you ask me as a player, I would say that during my career there was so many incidents which I can mention, but I don't want to mention here, that the man management of the coaches or the PCB was not up to the mark, or was not right with the players.
Right.
So there were so many stories, but the stories now surfacing on the media because of the social media nowadays.
Right.
Everybody, Sami Aslam left the country. There are other few Samis saying something on the media. Kamran Akmal is not happy with the Pakistan, the behavior the PCB has been dealing with him, and then Amir is not happy with the management.
Right.
But this is not the right way to come on the media and saying that it's look like a blackmailing, that if this management is will be in charge, I won't be playing. So PCB has to do something as a parent department, as a
Right.
parent body. So
Right.
this issue should be sorted as soon as possible.
Right. So basically the whole thing that that I'm really looking at, obviously, initially, Misbah Haq had like two responsibilities, obviously as a chief selector and the head coach as well. And then before announcing the team, obviously he stepped down from one of the key positions, and obviously being just the head coach now. But as per the statements that actually come from Amir's end, is like more on the side that maybe he's like not comfortable with how he's been treated lately, because I think one of the statements that actually came out once from Misbah's end, that he has to go back to domestic cricket. Muhammad Amir has to go back to domestic cricket to prove his worth. Don't you think it becomes very heartbreaking for strugglers, for players? I understand your consent. I understand your point of view with regards to how you see it as a player, because you've been in the team, you've been representing the country, you've been like one of the known key players of our team. So how do you see it? For instance, what other ways or what other behaviors can be molded into the whole situation to bring out anybody who's really having problems, and why can't PCB actually look into it on a serious matter?
I think as a player, I would suggest, or I would recommend Amir to go as Pakistan Cricket Board told him, that to go back to the domestic cricket, play there, show your performances and show your fitness there, because he was dropped just because of his recent form was not up to the mark, and the fitness he showed in the in the world in England series, he got injured there. There are few other incidents where he was injured during the match. So there is a concern for the management that he's been struggling with his fitness, because his age is not same as he was 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So he needs to get his fitness right. Show Pakistan Cricket Board that how good still he is, because he was very lethal with a new ball, so he lacks his pace now, and he can't swing the ball enough to get the batsman out. So he need to work a lot on his fitness, on his form, to get back into the Pakistan squad.
Right. Okay. We'll go back once again to Pakistan versus New Zealand. If we see at the bowling side, let's start with the bowling side, because Pakistan has always been known for its key bowling attacks, if I'm not wrong. Even though we understand sometimes we do have that, as Babar Azam was unable to be a part of the entire series, which obviously he worked more as a backbone for us all, specifically on the batting side, because there were a lot of juniors in the opening batting lineup. But when it comes to bowling, do you think our bowling was up to the mark? We'll get to the fielding and batting later, but let's start with the bowling side.
If you compare Pakistani bowlers to New Zealand bowlers on paper, there's no match. They hardly played any first-class cricket, let alone the international cricket. You see?
Right.
If you talk about New Zealand bowlers, Trent Boult, Tim Southee, and Neil Wagner.
Right.
See, I played in New Zealand 10 years ago for a state called Otago and Canterbury, and Neil Wagner was playing for them. Matt Henry, he played one test, so he was playing there. So you can see the amount of investment into those bowlers who's performing now for New Zealand. It's been like 10 to 12 years now, right? Pakistani players, they got picked from the performances, short performances, one or two performances, that even two from the T20 format, which is a shorter format.
Right.
This is no correlate to 4-day cricket or test cricket. So that's why we got exposed, our juniors, Naseem Shah, Musa Khan, and even Shaheen Afridi is one of the guys who is successful in all formats.
Right.
But that's where Pakistan is lucky. But other than that, we are tried too many players and picked from the shorter format. That
Right.
is the main reason, because they hadn't played any first class cricket. First class cricket, improves the bowlers' technique, skills, and gives you endurance to sustain your fitness for the last for 4 to 5 days.
Right, right. So basically, what you're exactly suggesting right now is lack of practice would definitely be one of the elements through which, because they didn't really have that chance. Going there, not following the rules and regulations and the orders that were actually given to them, obviously brings them to a point of no return, because of the government there. They were upset with regards to how Pakistani players were, being, and then they had to put them into quarantine for 14 days, and then not playing. But anyways, that was more of the bowling side, and I totally believe on the bowling side's perspective on what you stated. What we will do is we'll take a break, and as soon as we come back from the break, we'll start with the fielding and the batting lineup, which is definitely going to be interesting coming out from you, sir. See you guys after the break. And yes, welcome back once again to the Sports Insight with your host Alamdar Khan. And yes, as discussed, we have Sir Yasir Arafat with us, obviously discussing his wisdom with regards to the performance of Pakistan cricket team back in New Zealand. So as obviously Yasir by himself has actually played and performed in New Zealand, so he knows how the pitch works. But we initially started with the bowling. Yasir, let's go to the batting side. The trickle-down effect which Pakistan always faces, facing balls on shorter, specifically the shorter deliveries on pitches like Australia or New Zealand. How do we see rectifying them or bringing them to a point of being as solid as one should have as a opening batsman team?
If we talk about batting performances in New Zealand tour, let's start off with T20 performances. There are a few positives coming out of that T20 series, especially Muhammad Hafiz's performance. He's one of the most experienced batsmen in our Pakistan T20 squad,
Right.
and the other players revolve around his batting.
Right.
So that was one of the positive, and then Rizwan's, in the match-winning inning in the third T20, which brought victory for Pakistan. So there are few glimpses and a few good performances, but we need our batting to, perform on the consistent basis to
Yes.
To compete the best teams in the world. If you talk about Test cricket, you see our approach in the Test cricket was too defensive. I don't know why. Is it because of Misbah Haq mindset?
Right.
Or what you call, because we have Yunus Khan in the dressing room, who's one of the best player Pakistan has ever produced. So they got to play attacking cricket.
Right.
Attacking doesn't mean you have to hit boundaries. Every ball is about taking rotating the strikes, and improvisation is very key while you're batting.
Right.
So these are the things which are lacking in batting. If you see New Zealand batsmen, they are world best batsman, number one or number two. If you see Kane Williamson, one of the best batsmen in the world,
Phenomenal
number one
indeed.
ranked in the Test cricket. Ross Taylor, another example. So if you comparison Pakistan batting lineup with New Zealand, there was no match.
Right, right. All right, so that was the batting side that we talked about. The last side that I'm going to talk about is the fielding. The fielding has been very, very to a point of no return. How do you see that coming to a point of the team being as one and putting in their very best?
Whenever you talk about Pakistan fielding, it's always been lacking behind the others test playing nations or cricketing nations.
Right.
We always lack in fielding.
Right.
If you go back 2 years ago, when Pakistan was playing in Champions Trophy, when they won the Champions Trophy in England,
Right.
we had a proper fielding coach. Ray Jennings was the fielding coach of Pakistan team at that time, and Pakistan fielding was up to the mark. They were doing excellent ground fielding, and the catching was brilliant. But now, since he left, Pakistan fielding gone downhill. Now
Right.
we have a local fielding coach, and he must be a good coach, but not for international standards. He was not up to the mark.
Right.
So what we need to do is have a proper fielding coach, which is qualified, trained, and who has worked in the international arena, to get the fielding drills right, and
Right.
get the players to, if you drop 9 catches in a test match, how can you expect the team to, win the game? So
Right.
these
Yasir,
are the
what
few
you
things.
actually.
Another thing I want to add here is,
Yes,
like,
please.
no balls is another thing which we missed early on while we was talking about bowling.
Yes.
That we have bowled 17 no balls in a test match.
Right.
See, we have Waqar Yunus in the dressing room. The bowling should have improved now. He's there for almost 2 years now, and the bowling is even going downhill as well. So these are the few things we need to, address as soon as possible. Otherwise, Pakistan is struggling at the moment. Pakistan is sixth in the ranking now. So
Right.
if we have one or two bad series, like South Africa is in Pakistan, so if
Right.
we lose to them, then our ranking would even go further down.
Yes. Even looking at this, thank you for adding this one wisdom, which I've been constantly talking about, is having a good fielding coach. Now let's look at Pakistan. Let's look at how India managed to fight against Australia after that defeat of 36 all out, having those quarantine situations, BCCI having arguments with the government, they wanting them to have a easier way for them to interact and not being as quarantined as they were. But eventually, what happens? They managed to put in their energies, their level best, and they proved their worth on the, not on obviously their home soil, but they were also touring. They were also going through that. So, on a professional scale, you just cannot bring the COVID situation as an excuse, if I'm not wrong.
Talking about India-Australia series, I would say, India is the team to look for if somebody wants to improve, or if somebody wants, like, PCB is doing so many changes in their domestic setup. They reduced their teams. They shut down the departmental cricket. They reduced 18 teams into 6 teams now. Look at India's, they got like roughly 36, 37 first-class teams.
Right.
They're investing on the right people, right infrastructure. That's how they are getting the good results. I was
Right.
listening to Harsha Bogle last week when he was commenting about why India is so successful in the recent last 5 to 10 years. Why? Because they are investing in the right places, and their A tours, their under 19 tours. Look at Rahul Dravid, who is involved in the junior setup.
Right.
He is the right man for the right job. He is producing, the performances you've seen in the recent test series, even though they missed Virat Kohli and they missed most of their senior players. This is
Right.
their second or third tier team, which is playing against Australia's top team now, and they
Right.
beat them in their home grounds, home
Absolutely.
conditions. So you see, Rehane, the new captain, how he batted in the Boxing Day test. He got 100, and then other players chipped in. The bowlers, whoever gets chance, they are performing. Is the reason why? Because they have a strong domestic setup. They have under 19, strong under 19. They keep touring their A side to foreign countries to learn and to expose their young players. So there's if you want to learn, if you want to pick things from any cricket board or any team, India is the right team. We can pick good things from them and implement on our own domestic setup.
Right. So basically, what you're suggesting is they are one of the teams that have actually learned to fight as a team. Like I said, I've spoken to a few other people with regards to how Pakistan went down in the situation with New Zealand, but everybody had a different version and a different excuse. Some said that, give them time, and situation scenarios will improve for them. Now, as we've announced our recent test squad as South Africa is here, how much impact would that be? The only one good person that I did a show about was Kamran Ghulam being a part of the team, because Kamran Ghulam's performance with regards to Quaid-e-Azam Trophy was phenomenal. So let's come to Pakistan versus South Africa. Is Pakistan ready to face them on the home soil?
I would start off, with the selection that Chief Selector Mohammad Wasim
Right.
announced 2 days ago. He announced 20 players, and everybody is talking about that he brought so many uncapped players, which is 9
Right.
players from the domestic.
Right.
So I would really appreciate Mohammad Wasim for his decision to brought the players who perform well in the domestic circuit.
Right.
There are a few names which we can discuss on them, 1 or 2 players which we can discuss. But other than that, the selection he did was excellent. and I'm really happy the way he picked his squad. 9 players people are talking about uncapped. They're gonna reduce into 16 in maybe 1 or 2 days. Then then there will be only 4 to 5 players who are uncapped. But the
Right.
good thing is the domestic performer get their opportunity to to get into the Pakistan squad, get their place into the squad, show their mettle, how good they are, and
Right.
tell the the previous selectors or the management that how good they were, and they were being ignored. Look at Tabish Khan, how it's been performing for 15 to 17 years. I
Right.
mean, he almost got 600 wickets in first class cricket.
Right.
Again, there is one miss. Usman Salahuddin, I would like to mention here, because he's been there for around 10 years. He got 8,000 runs, 24 centuries in first class cricket.
Right.
He is the guy who just missed out. So I'm sure Wasim had him in the mind. So maybe in the future he will have him in the squad. And I'm really happy the way Mohammad Wasim conducted that press conference,
Right.
telling the players, especially on the slide, that why he picked and why he dropped the players on the
Right.
basis of their performances and their technical faults or whatever.
So we're basically we're like really hopeful with regards to at least the test squad that's been announced. Maybe we'll definitely be more excited with regards to the T20 squad. How do you see the T20 squad once it's announced? Because it's not announced yet.
Again, I mean, it's too early to predict that who's going to be in the squad. But there are the most of the guys from that last tour to New Zealand, they would be in the squad. But I would say they still Pakistan had a T20 comp a few months ago, and then they are playing a one-day comp. So Mohammad Wasim, maybe Rohel Nazir, and the Khushdil Shah was in the squad as well, but he didn't perform that well as he used to perform in the domestic. But we need to give those players time to settle into the Pakistan squad, to show their mettle and their talent. So it's too early to predict who will be in the squad. But let's we need to talk about what we have at the moment is Test cricket. So it's going to be a good series. Pakistan
Yes.
is in their home have an advantage of playing it at home condition.
Right.
They will obviously look to make the spinning tracks, because Pakistan have Yasir Shah, experienced bowler.
So let's talk about the press conference that happened of Quinton de Kock, who actually said that we will not take Pakistan lightly, because obviously the expectation of every team is to at least have 2 spinners and 2 fast bowlers about it. It's going to be an interesting journey, because obviously they came in after the victory against Sri Lanka. What do you think? How ready is South Africa at the moment?
I think South Africa is a excellent team. I mean, they showed in the past, and then they had an excellent series against Sri Lanka. They beat it Sri Lanka very convincingly. Some good performances from their bowling and batting, especially their experienced batsman Faf du Plessis. He got a great knock, although he got out on 199. And then de Kock, the Dean Elgar, Markram. These are the guys who are been there for a number of years. So it's going to be a good series. A lot of pressure on Pakistan team, Pakistani management, and Pakistani players. But let's see what happens.
Well, thank you so very much for the wisdom, Yasir Arafat. Thank you for being with us and putting us with all the wisdom that you've got. Anyways, we'll switch from the cricket side to a very interesting football event that actually took place. It was Barcelona's, it's basically a Spanish league match that actually took place, Barcelona versus Athletic Bilbao. So what really happened was they won against Barcelona. So it was an interesting match, but the interesting part of the match was Messi actually lost his temper at this point, which obviously proved a red card for him. And not to forget that this would be his first red card in 753 innings. So it's like a phenomenal story that actually came up, and they lost 3-2. Even though it was a Spanish league, but it's going to be a very serious offense with regards to Messi's behavior. And we've not really seen anything like it before from his end. Maybe he just came to the point of losing the entire scenario. It was an overall third red card in the 17-year-old career that he has. But overall, with regards to the Spanish league in 753 innings, this was the first one that took place for him. Anyways, we'll just switch over to the golf side. With regards to golf, there's an update. Yes, Greg Norman, the legend, Australian golf legend, is hospitalized with COVID-19. And he just posted a photo of himself in the hospital bed. We wish him the very best, and not to forget that this legend has actually won 1986 and 1983 British Opens. He's been a legend. Let's hope that he covers up and comes out well from the COVID virus scenario. Anyways, from the world of tennis, yes, as we all know that, Australian Open has actually been shifted to February, which is why they had to ensure that, the COVID situation is managed carefully. However, 47 players in quarantine after testing positive for Corona-19. That's one of the big news. And 24 players on the charter flight from US to Melbourne were also required to quarantine. Obviously, being in the plane, they can't risk it, so they are under quarantine for 14 days. And not to forget that Australia has very serious laws when it comes to the quarantine situation. But anyways, it's not only them, that there are other 23 players who are also put into quarantine in Melbourne. But anyways, let's hope the timing for the event goes well, because from how I see it, the Australian Open may be shifted a bit more ahead in February, or maybe mid-February or end February, depending on the situations of the players that have actually landed to Australia. Anyways, this was all from the world of sports. Thank you very much for being a part of the show. If you want to reach us, you can reach us at the rate of Indus News Sports on our social media handles. Till then, take good care of yourself, and bye-bye.